6 Jad Challenge. So you're frustrated, searching on YouTube for ways to make this challenge free. Well, short of traveling back in time and becoming a Guitar Hero god, there ain't much you can really do to make this challenge easier. A lot of it's really just get good or get fucked. Um, each Jad has one tick in between it, so every single thing is tick perfect up until the 6th Jad in the cycle. Then you have 2 Jads to make actions happen, unless you're fucking Calvino and can click things, end your prayers, tick perfectly, and keep track of things in the middle of a cycle. Yeah. So, the way to actually make this easier is to not just slam your head into the wall and fucking consistently try 6 Jads and die 100 times in a row. What you're going to want to do, realistically, is go and practice your one tick flicking on single Jads. Then you're going to want to practice it on doubles, triples, and really just get that timing down of when you can change your prayer. Right? At the last possible tick. You don't want any 2 tick flicking, you want to make sure it's 1 tick. Every single time. You want to be able to consistently get it 1 tick down. What I do personally, I'm not very good at the range 1 tick. Mainly I focus on the mage. It's a lot easier, there's sound cues, and even if I mess up and get fucked, like, it's more forgiving to focus on the mage than the range, just because the sound cues are a bit easier. So what I would recommend doing is really just focusing going into the single Jad challenge and focusing on 1 ticking everything. Every single attack. Just stand there. See how long you can last 1 ticking. You could sit on 1 HP to get punished more for mistakes, I guess. But in reality, if you know your mistakes and call yourself out on it, like, you just want to be able to 1 tick everything. And once you can get that 1 tick flick down, focusing on counting ticks in your head as well, like as a passive modifier. If you want to turn on the metronome plugin, I know some people do that. To me, it's a little distracting. But yeah, so the sound cues. The sound cues for the mage attack are huge. Nobody really mentions that when I see things. You can use the mage attack sound cue for 1 ticking as a catch up in the cycle, right? So like if you are lost in a cycle and you're like, fuck, I'm screwed, but like the last attack was a range attack. Okay, well, if you hear that the mage attack's coming, you can figure out which Jad's attacking, and then you can re-catch up to the cycle and see the next attacks after, because it's all 1 tick apart, unless you do what I'm doing in the video and splitting their attack cycles up, which you can do. Personally, I've done a couple kills, and I think that this method is like, it's not better or worse, it's just different. Whichever you prefer is the way you should do it. Personally, the way I do it now is I just do it. I just make the gap bigger and bigger. I don't actually do the whole splitting the ticks for more grace period between attacks. I tend to get not confused doing this, but I don't know. I like the downtime in between the Jad attacks. Like, the 1 ticking part isn't really as big of a problem for me anymore. Um, yeah. Honestly, the biggest thing is just getting those 1 tick flicks down to the point that, like, you can see the attack come out and you can catch up based on sound cues. Like, it's really easy for me, and you'll see I rarely ever mess up if I see a lot of range attacks in a row and then a mage attack. I mostly mess up if there's mage attacks, a range attack mixed, so like 2 or 3 mage attacks, a range attack, 2 mage attacks, and a range attack would be like the hardest one for me. The alternating's pretty easy. A lot of range attacks and then a mage attack and then back to range. But usually it's the lack of sound cue for the range attack that really messes people up. So going into single Jad and purposefully practicing 1 ticking the range attack or purposely practicing 1 ticking the mage attack, like, that is the best thing you could possibly do to make 6 Jads easier for yourself. Could also work on things that you might have skipped when doing your Inferno grind, maybe Jad run-throughs, maybe stacking the healers in ways that you're not tanking five of them at the same time, which, although in six Jads, I mean, it's not always avoidable. Like sometimes things just spawn in really shit ways. Uh, yeah. Okay, and as the kill's wrapping up, you're in the home stretch. You just want to make sure that you don't tank random Jad hits at this point. If you did it in the other method where your Jads are one tick apart, just make sure you're paying attention and getting those flicks down correctly. If you tank two Jad hits back to back, you're going to instantly get chanced. You want to remember that even if you get to the last Jad with basically no food left, you can still finagle the healers in a way so that you don't really take any damage. Praying melee and one taking the Jad hits to make sure that you can position the healers one at a time so that they're all on the opposite side of Jad if you can't physically do a run through without chancing yourself. Um, but yeah, from here it's pretty much home free. If you fuck up here, it's just like actually just super depressing. But, if you can get here once, you can get here again. Like, don't beat yourself up if you do die on the last couple Jads. It's a lot of nerves once you get here, especially if you've not done it before. Like, you can get it. And finally, I just thought I'd throw this clip in here of like how I would practice one ticking my Jad flicks. I wouldn't really bother doing it in the higher Jads, just really focusing on when those sound cues happen and like when the animation then results in an attack, right? Because when you're doing this, like, and you're focusing on this, it's going to be really easy to do. Like, you're gonna be, why do I have to bother doing this? But the thing is, you want this to be second nature and autopilot to where you barely ever mess up. Like, you want this down. And this will drastically improve your chances of doing six Jads with a lot less effort. Because if you mess up in a cycle and you don't know where you're at, catching up in that cycle then becomes impossible. Because if you're like working with it on the tick basis of like some people will memorize the rotation and then flick after they know the first one, but if you get lost in a cycle and you're doing that method, you're never going to catch back up. So just really getting in here and being able to practice this will help you recovering from mess ups. Yeah, but good luck.